I am going to make the Babylonian creation epic, the Enuma Elish, interactive. How much media do we use today? We're on it all the time. Imagine thousands of years ago, we live in stone homes. Imagine that these stories take that place. I'm going to suggest that this plays out in the mind in a very special way that we have forgotten how to do it. For people that are going to be on board with this, what I'm going to suggest, first of all, anybody who believes it's real, okay, it's based on a common template. It's a very early version of a template that is based on the life of a human. So I recognize that. This is not something that is unusual or unique. I mean, they're all the myths and religions are unique in the way they're carried, but at the template level that they're framed upon, they all share the same template. And this one shows it fairly well. It's kind of an early version of them. There's actually two templates in this one. And those are a creation and then a recreation, or a birth and then a rebirth, if you will. In monomyths, the monomyth itself, there is not typically a creation. Creation happens somewhere upstream. If the Bible was monomyth after monomyth, how many times is there going to be a creation? Just one time. In Greek myth, monomyth after monomyth, how many times is there a creation? Just once. But the monomyths themselves are not going to have the creation story restated. So all of the lineages, Hinduism as well, all religions have a basic start that they tell you how we came about in a creation story. But then it goes on into monomyth after monomyth after monomyth. So this has one creation story, one monomyth. It's going to be a fun one to learn with. My name is Dan Paulson. Welcome to the video. I'm going to very briefly cover what a monomyth is in my own way. It's been done quite a bit, and there's people, honestly, I've been to channels where people are teaching Greek myth, and you ask them about a monomyth, and they go, oh, it's not there. They're not seeing it. They're teaching the mythology, and they don't see the monomyth within their own material. But that's what happens when you read it literally. The Bible is repeating monomyth. Why can't we see it? We don't. We read it literally. So what happens is you can't see what's there. It's conceptual. There's concepts in the stories. Now, the monomyth is exactly that. Joseph Campbell first published this book in 1949, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. Do you know that the first Star Wars trilogy is made using this template right here? Just take a quick look right here. The Call to Adventure. This is the 17 stages of the Joseph Campbell monomyth right here. Most people recognize it. It's an individual path. You see it, Call to Adventure. That's where the hero gets called. What we had was Luke getting the video. Remember, it was the droids got to him and he got called and wanted to go. And yeah, he asked, and his uncle told him, nope, you can't go. So even though Luke didn't refuse, the refusal of the call happened when his uncle Owen told him no, that he couldn't go. Then when he did get a chance to go anyway, first thing happens is he gets a supernatural aid. He gets training from Yoda. I'll stop right there. I don't want to keep going on about that. But you see right there that that's exactly the template that's being followed to create a story. This is what Joseph Campbell did. He studied myth and he read things so much that he began to see patterns between them. Most people that study one thing, they don't study enough. In order for you to see this, it's the same with me. I didn't see patterns until I studied Greek myth, Hinduism, Christianity, Buddhism. At some point you realize, okay, now I see the patterns. But you had to encompass a lot of material. He did. And the patterns are weird things. Like, well, right here, like one of the first things they do is cross a river. Over here, there's a dangerous river to cross. You got to have the ferryman take you across. Over here, he's got to sail through these clashing rocks, and he barely makes it through. Over here, they got to go through the Red Sea, and they barely make it through. There's something that is, you look at those and go, huh, There's something conceptual there. Are they the same thing? No, going through the clashing rocks is not the same thing as going through the Red Sea, is not the same thing as having the ferryman take you across the river Styx or anything like that. What they all represent is a crossing of a threshold. That is what Joseph Campbell began to identify in there. He didn't do a complete job. He didn't have to take the path. There is actually more to the template than what Joseph Campbell has identified. But you have to read the stories conceptually. There's a certain way that these work. Now, what I'm going to, and I'll let you, any further information you want on that, you can go look at that yourself. I don't want to do the monomyth and Joseph Campbell stuff. I've got my own that I've identified. And I also have taken the steps and made them mentally interactive. Joseph Campbell left them nebulous. Crossing a threshold means going into your mind. He failed to see cyclical pain. He doesn't have that in there. We're going to see that in the stories, all of the stories. You know, you would see that cyclical pain in things like Greek punishment. Who was it? Sisyphus that had to roll the boulder up the hill and then it came back down. He had to keep doing this forever. Prometheus getting his liver eaten out. It grows back. It gets eaten out again. Phineas is on the island. He's the seer in the Jason and the Argonauts. He's getting his food defiled daily. So there's these things that you look at and go, those are all weird things, but they continue to show up. In the Bible, it starts right off with Eve, the inner self, having pain in childbirth. The Jews like to use plagues. Plagues all the time are there to teach the bad people to do something good. This represents you having cyclical pain. So that story element is very glaringly there. We will find that. And it certainly appears in the Enuma Elish in the repeat of a destruction. It's almost a word-for-word repeat. Some people have asked me before, did you read that same thing twice accidentally? It's like, no, that's a repeat of pain. It's a destructive thing happening that happens twice. So we're going to see those elements in here. So there's going to be some modification that I put into his work. If you're familiar with his work, this is going to sound a little bit different, but it's really taking it and putting it into plain language. You know, the meeting with the goddess that's meeting up with your inner self. Belly of the whale, that's being in your mind where the spaces, where the memories are. I'm going to make it that interactive. I'm not going to leave it nebulous like Joseph Campbell did. He also, at no time, identified that there was an initial creation myth in front of the monomyth. The monomyths are common. Creation happens only once at the beginning of each, line of whatever the mythology or religion or whatever the case may be. So the creation is a lot more rare, but the creation stories feed into the monomyth. Every monomyths emerge. If you keep going upstream, you'll find all monomyths come from a creation story. Creation is what happens to every person, and then it goes up to a point where life goes bad. However, many people stay right there. Not everybody has a bad life. Okay, if you do, the point here is that now we're having this struggle to live, and there are certain people that are going to want to correct their life. There's a saying, let me try to say it here, that we all have two lives. And the second one starts the moment we realize we only have one life. That's when the monomyth picks up. That's when you go, oh, what the hell is my life? I want to do something different. The monomyth picks up right there. We're going to go back and destroy previous self, early self. We're going to go for a rebirth in the monomyth. How does it work? I'm almost thinking that, you have to kind of go through these on your own. You have to read them on your own. They're difficult. What I'm going to do is show you what I've learned to do and how to get back into it. But at the end of the day, you really kind of have to do it on your own. It's not enough to watch somebody else do it. And you have to, you'll see. I'll try to create as many analogs as I can. Okay. We all have our phones. We're not sitting there listening to one person or watching one person on the phone. We all have our own. We're all going to do it in our own way. As we're going through the stories, it's the same thing. You're not going to listen to somebody else constantly go through or tell the story. What you do is you have this memorized and you can play it out in your imagination. What you do is you take this story right here, and it is based on two templates. From creation, from the very moment of creation, that represents your birth, the creation of each human. This template is based on the life cycle of a human, from creation, how it goes bad, how it needs to be destroyed, and how in the end there's a new creation in place, how we have come about in life, how we have become hurt, how we turn inward to heal ourselves and emerge anew. It's a story about a rebirth of an individual, but it's written out that way. What you must do is read this story. They had it memorized, okay? Take this story, close your eyes, sit down, and spend the day playing it out in your mind, knowing that each and every one of the people and whatever's going on in this story is a part of you and your life. You're going to see kind of a structure in here, a rank structure or a hierarchy. In the mind, there is a hierarchy. There is a higher awareness, a consciousness, an inner self, and the memories. All of these get placed in there. And moreover, because there's a lot more characters than that, aren't there? There are variations along the way. As each person is destroyed off and somebody else is coming along, these are new iterations of you. So each and every one of these characters then goes in your mind and it's a part of you. Okay, so in this video, what I want to talk about really is just the mental component parts. I'm not going to start the interpretation in this video. Let's just work on this. We got to make preparation for it. It's not a matter of just sitting down and reading it. I mean, you can do that, but you know what? I've read it before and you'll find other people that have as well. So I've read the Timothy J. Stephanie one, who has actually editorially put in his own versions of where the missing stuff was. But let's just set all that off aside right now. We're going to sit down and talk about what the mental parts are, because as we read that, that's where they're going to go. First of all, the God region, the higher awareness. There's a place in our highest thinking that we're going to identify right now. This is the one that is the most nebulous. We don't really work with this one very much. So let's first identify it. Do you wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning tossing and turning with something going through your mind? If you do, you will notice that what's happening is that you've got this internal dialogue going on that you can't resolve. Something has just got you twisted up. And every once in a while, there will be another part of your awareness that steps in and says, hey, you got to go to sleep. There's nothing you can do tonight. Just try to relax. Try to let it go. And you'll notice when that part is talking to you, that as you experience as you hear that talking, at that moment right there, you're not feeling the connection to the emotions. But what happens, we don't recognize what that is. That's the higher awareness talking to us. We don't recognize what it is. We let it slip away and we go right back into the feelings. We can do this without that 3, 4 in the morning tossing and turning thing. You can just sit there at any point in time and step outside of yourself and look at yourself from a detached perspective. There is a part of our self that existed early on before we developed enough mind and memory to have life experiences. That's the higher awareness right there. It existed before our life experiences and memories were. But from this place up here, not only is that higher awareness there, but all the power to create everything is there. If you're making decisions about, I don't like this or I don't like that, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to do, something stupid here, I got in trouble for that. All of these are creations that come from where? That they're going to be coming from a higher place, okay? So as we get into the story, the power for something to appear has to come from someplace. It's going to come from this higher realm, a heaven realm. We're going to have a lot coming from the higher space up there. What happens next, though, is that now we have a conscious. This is the one that we're working with right now. We work with it all the time, but here's what happens with the conscious. We're existing in a mental hierarchy. And what is happening is that, first of all, we're living through the higher awareness, except we don't know it. We have no mental cognition to know we're living through our higher self when we're born. What happens when we start developing life experiences? We pick up memories as we judge those memories, and we begin to live through those memories. Now, what we want to do later is to find a way to extract ourselves from the memories, now that we've got the brain capacity to do so, and live through that higher self. The consciousness does not know what's going on. It's just making life decisions, storing them away, and because the consciousness is having the physical life experience, it's the one that decides, I like this, I don't like that, I've got certain input, pain, shame, something, somehow, some way I feel a certain way, and I'm going to remember this, and I'm going to remember it with that emotion as well. And that right there, every one of those is a creation. But it is the consciousness in charge that is doing that. The consciousness is going to be given a male role in the material. The inner being is going to be given a female role because it is subservient to the conscious. The inner self becomes a product of what it has been fed by the conscious. This is my experience, this is my memory, and this is how I feel about it. There, eat that. Here's another experience. Here's how I feel about it. Here, eat that. Oh, here's another experience and the way I feel about that. Yeah, eat that too. What we're doing is we are metaphorically consuming life experience and becoming that as a result. And these are electrochemical stored areas. Then when we're not paying attention or we're somewhere else in life, we can be experiencing those from a memory as if they're still there. Actually, what happens as time goes by is that they get worse. When we give them attention and they get triggered, they're going to continue to grow. It's like fertilizing something that's growing there by giving it and what does it need? It needs energy. It needs attention, a certain kind of attention. You can give it attention in a healing way to change it. But right now what we're doing is just understanding what the consciousness is. And in the stories, the consciousness will identify that in there. Marduk, if you've read this story, is going to be the cult hero. Marduk is the conscious self when you're saying to yourself, I'm at that point. I only have one life. I gotta make some changes. I don't feel okay. I gotta make some amends. I have to do some things to feel better about this life that I have right here. You became Marduk. That's a conscious region right there. What happens next then is that we do have the inner being. And the inner being is a product of our life experiences and how we've stored things. There's actually going to be, they're going to do something in here where this inner being can be very, very full of stuff. Not just a female, but full of all kinds of offspring. That all of those, the memories and the experiences, good and bad, that we have are all going to be holding roles in there. We're going to get to a point right up front where we've got bad gods that have to be destroyed. That represents our early qualities that we are like, yep, these things, I've smashed windows, busted, broken drywall, scream, yell. I've had some real issues. Those are all things emerging from us, from our experiences that have to be destroyed. Those are going to be called gods as we get into it. And the reason that it's an analogous term. The reason they are called gods is because they are so powerful that when they emerge, they take over. You could be sitting there going, man, I'm done. I will not ever do that again. I am sorry I did that. Then you get triggered and it happens again. It is so powerful, you can't control it. It has God status. So these are the things that have to get destroyed. And that's the way the story's going to work. Okay, so we've got the higher awareness, we've got the consciousness, we've got the inner self with all of the qualities that can happen. Plus, we're going to segment over time. We're going to start out young. We're going to get into this one. It's going to have a Lamu and Lahamu are the first two to start. That's going to be the same as Adam and Eve. And think of it this way. My name is Daniel. There's a female variant, Danielle. If you could look at me and see, his conscious and his inner being, we're going to call that Daniel and Danielle. Okay, that is what they're doing with Lamu and Lahamu, or Adam and Eve. The conscious and the inner self. So when we get into that, that's how it's going to work. So start prepping your mind to think of it that way. And if you have a copy of the Enuma Elish, go ahead and do that, understanding that it's the creation of you and that all of those, everybody that's created in there is created in a stage of your life, and it represents something that is a part of your life experience. Okay. Any questions or comments, feel free to put them below. I will I'm not quite sure. I want to find a copy that I can download that is a good one that I can manipulate. One of the things that I'm going to be doing when we get into here, it's going to, what I want to do is make some changes. If I think Marduk is myself on the path, what I want to do is go in and manipulate and say every time there's Marduk, replace that with self on path, Tiamat, early self, bad gods, early qualities, things, and then make those modifications, then go back and read the story again with those modifications and see what it sounds like. It'll be revealing. Okay, going through this will help us learn how to navigate monomyth. I've been trying it in Genesis and people don't like that, or they don't get on board, or it's just not interesting. I go here, I think it'll be easier for people to pick up how to do it, how it works. Then when we go to Genesis, it's going to be the same thing, just different analogs. All right, see you in that video.